What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the CanAm Fantasy Football Podcast, and today we are talking top 15 running backs for 2020. It's a huge show. It's the show that everyone who's looking to win their league has got to listen to. What's going on, everybody? I'm Ryan Phillip Lamb. With me today is Devan Christodoulou. Devan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Stoked. This is always my favorite time of year, getting ready with running backs. There's so many delicious running backs in the top 15.
No. Can you believe that we're 1 month away from kickoff, from the official kickoff of the NFL season?
It's crazy to me because, as I was saying to you guys, and through messaging and whatnot, I was starting to get really, really down about the chances of NFL even happening, and it's starting to look a little bit up at least. So I'm glad to hear that.
Well, last episode we briefly, when we had Tyler and Atan on, we were chatting about the whole idea of NFL. There is no opportunity to do any sort of bubble situation with the NFL teams, given just the complexity of the rosters. You've got 80-man teams or so in a locker room, so huge teams. And then also, when you think of how many games need to be played over the span of one Sunday, and then of course the game on Monday and the game on Thursday, it's just crazy. But you were actually talking about the idea of possibly bubbling. Is there any good way to do it?
Well, I'm definitely not an expert in this at all, but if you take a look at the NHL and NBA, granted, it is completely different scenarios. The teams are way bigger in the NFL. It seems to be a lot more complicated. But I was wondering if you could take, like, for example, 10 teams and then bubble them respective of their schedule and division. So put each division together for sure, and then get them bubbled together based on schedule, if that was at all possible. I have not looked into to see if it's possible or not, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, you got 4 teams per division. Maybe you get 2 divisions together. You get the NFC South and West together, for instance, and then you somehow bubble them together in some sort of area. But then you're still dealing with, if you're talking about 8 individual teams, it's still 4 games that need to be played at any given time. So that is still inherently difficult. And it's also, one of the things that we didn't touch on was just the wear and tear that the individual fields would be dealing with. Because some fields happen to be AstroTurf and some are natural turf, and those natural turf fields, like, once a game is played, they're trashed, so there's no way to do it.
That's a very good point. They could just opt to not choose any natural turfs, just all AstroTurf.
Well, they would have to, for sure.
Yeah.
But that is not what we're talking about today. It looks like there's going to be a season, and why don't you hang out with us until the season? We're going to help you figure out what you're doing with your selections for fantasy football. Now, of course, the top 15 running backs. These top 15 running backs are actually our channel's consensus top 15 running backs. And so we did a little exercise where we ranked what we thought the top 20 running backs were. We compiled the list, and we're going to be taking a look at that. But first, before we go any further, of course, give us a like. This is the big episode, and we're going to give you a lot of good info on these running backs. So give us a like, subscribe. We're currently doing a drive for 500. That's right, 500 subscribers. We're looking to give away a signed Amari Cooper jersey anywhere in North America. So you go ahead and subscribe. Once we hit 500 subscribers, we're going to give away that jersey. So it's pretty exciting for sure. Devan, jersey. You want... Oh, okay. Well, you know what you can do? You can subscribe, and then we're not going to... Okay, great. We're not going to give it to you, though, because that would be unfair. Like the worst contest ever. Like, hey, we're going to give it away to someone. Guess what? I won it, bitches. Ha ha! We're like the worst. All right, so totally here we're actually gonna do that. Off to a roaring start. All
Yeah.
right. Well, you can kind of see our beautiful rankings right there. For anyone who's just jumping into fantasy football, just jumping into their research and whatnot, this is really a good time to do it because a lot of us nerds have been busy. I've been busy taking a look at all of these players, and so here is a good ranking for you. The first overall pick in every single draft, unless you're dealing with an auction league, should be Christian McCaffrey. All five of us have Christian McCaffrey as the top running back off the board. One of the interesting things about it is, of course, Christian McCaffrey. He's in a different offense. It's a different head coach, a different quarterback, but it doesn't matter because Christian McCaffrey is exceptional at all facets of the position. He's an athletic freak. He's basically matchup proof because it doesn't matter. He can both pound the rock, and he can also catch out of the backfield. He's great. So when you take a look at last year, he doubled the reception total from the next closest running back. Even with a 10 point regression, 10% point regression, I mean, he'd still be the top. He'd still be in the top 10 of all the running backs from last year. So Christian McCaffrey, number one overall. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Dev?
No, no,
Yeah,
nothing to say.
pretty
CMC is CMC.
pretty straightforward. Now, do you have any interest in his handcuff Reggie Bonifon?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it's the case where that might be a lower upside handcuff. There's also Mike Davis has found his way onto the Carolina roster, so there's a chance that it might be Mike Davis as well. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to handcuff Christian McCaffrey, which I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't
No,
recommend him because,
don't
like,
handcuff
really,
CMC.
well, like, what's the point of that? Really, you're gonna get a player who's not going to be able to produce the way Christian McCaffrey is. So what's even the point? Might as well grab someone else's handcuff.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Saquon Barkley. Now he's a burst player. He's got breakaway speed. He's got tremendous talent. He's got the ability to have huge games, and he has a ridiculous ceiling. And again, sort of the same situation with CMC. There's no one who's going to be taking away any touches from him. He's got great recovery ability. We saw he had an injury and he got back to the field way sooner than we expected last year, which is awesome. And now he's going to be on an offense that's run by Jason Garrett, and we all know that Jason Garrett loves to run the ball. With the wide receiver core recently healthy, so we're looking at Golden Tate, Darius Slayton, and Sterling Shepard, and of course the tight end there, Evan Ingram. They're all healthy. Question is, Devin, how long do you think they're going to stay healthy?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe they'll catch COVID too. Who knows?
Oh,
Uh,
oh,
it's
come
a
on.
weird world we live in these days.
Weird time.
Yeah, but Barkley's great. Everything you said about him is true. He's the type of running back that you could be in your week, and he might not be doing that well in the game. He keeps getting stuffed over and over and over, and then suddenly he just breaks out for like 55 yards and a touchdown. That's He's just so talented and explosive. So there's not really much else you can say about him. There's a reason he's number two, and some argue that he could be number one. So
Well, he certainly has that ability. If there's anyone who has a ceiling to end as the top running back of the year, it's definitely Saquon Barkley. He definitely has that ability. One of the things that we might want to mention is, of course, when Daniel Jones took over as quarterback for the New York Giants, the target share did happen to lower, but that might just be an aberration just with the way that game flow worked for him that year. His handcuffs, again, you're not going to have to worry about it too much. Dion Lewis, Wayne Gallman. We've seen in short work Wayne Gallman not being able to do much. There's a chance that Dion Lewis might be worked in as a change of pace back, so that might take away from some of Saquon's targets, but let's face it, you're going to draft Saquon and you're going to be happy about it. Damn it.
yeah, 100%.
Speaking of people drafting people and being happy about it, damn it. Hey, Randy, what's going on, man? And we cannot hear you.
Okay, well, let's carry on
We'll
to.
just move right along. It's one of those things with live live shows you can
Well, man, it happens in radio and TV all the time, like
happens
professional
all the
stuff.
time. Yeah, it's so true.
And
We'll
we
just
are definitely professional.
oh, nothing but professional. What kind of beer are you drinking right now, by the way?
This is actually whiskey.
Oh, damn it. I did not get the memo that today was whiskey night. We're just going to continue along, and if
Hi.
Randy can. Oh, there we go. We can hear Randy. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the.
Hey, so this is a going trend. Like I always am muted the first time. I close, reboot, and then I'm in. It's super, super bizarre, but whatever.
It's all good. We're going to figure out these technical things. This is actually the last episode that we're going to be on this particular streaming platform. We're going to be switching over to another one. We're not going to give the details because they're not giving us any sponsorship money, so why would we? But we're looking to, as you can see, there is a bunch of upgrades that we're putting into the show. So, hey, give us a like right now, subscribe. This is a brand new channel, and we can't wait to give you a lot more fantasy football goodness. The next player that we have on our list, number 3, Ezekiel Elliott. Randy, what are you thinking about Ezekiel Elliott? Is he in the right place? We've got him ranked 3rd just from how our consensus rankings went, but you actually had him at 4th.
You know what? Not much nothing bad about Zeke. I just have Kamara having a big bounce back year. That's why I have Kamara ahead of him. So, not a Zeke detraction in any regard. Just I have really high hopes for Kamara this year. That's why I've got him at 3 and Zeke at 4.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Zeke's been a reliable option. Pretty much, he averages 19.2 fantasy points over all of his career games, and that's half point PPR, a half point per reception. Sorry. So you're looking at a very stable pick. Dev, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree with our consensus. I had him at number 3 there. He's just yeah, really safe and stable, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
even actually, if I could just say real quickly here, looking at his receptions, they dropped down a little bit from the year prior. He had 77 in 2018, and in 2019 he had 54 receptions. So maybe he could land somewhere in between those two. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's going to be interesting to see how CD Lamb will affect that offense. Of course, you've got 3 amazing wide receivers in there, which I think does open up the options to even more passing volume, if you can believe it. That's one of the teams that's just been as consistent as possible. You look at that team, it's going to be, it looks like it's going to have a very successful year for sure. One of the things that kind of caps Ezekiel Elliott's upside is the fact that Tony Pollard is such a great player. Now, Randy, we were talking about how some of the players before, you wouldn't want to handcuff them. This is one of the high upside handcuffs, Tony Pollard, is that you're looking at him, he could potentially finish blowout games for the Cowboys and whatnot. What do you have Tony Pollard right now as far as your handcuff rankings?
I'm really just trying to think if there's anyone ahead of him. I really think the handcuff, the top tier really is just Tony Pollard and Alex Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, Latavius Murray is
Latavius
there.
Murray. Yep.
Yeah.
That's my number 1.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else. It's really those 3, and you can really interchange them. It depends on your preference, but he's a guy that if Zeke goes down, he's going to slot in. He's going to be an RB1, so he's definitely a super valuable handcuff to have. I'm drafting Zeke anywhere. I will definitely be reaching a round or two higher just to make sure I have him as my insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, coincidentally, I do have him in CanAm, and I really shouldn't be telling you guys this.
Yeah, here's my strategy, guys. Make sure you fuck me. Awesome. Well, moving right along, the next person on our consensus is Alvin Kamara. Now, of course, last year he dealt with a very serious high ankle sprain, which really affected him. He had a he slowly got back into things, but let's face it, it was only 3 games total that he's missed in his career, so it's not like he's an injury risk. It's just last year we saw what would happen when he did get injured, and let's face it, he still got 97 targets and had a total of 81 receptions. Dev, where do you think Kamara's properly ranked here at number 4?
I do. That's I had him slotted in number 4. And I get the argument for the bounce back season. I totally could see that as a possibility. I mean, you're not going to end up with a disappointment if you get any of these guys. Honestly, like these are all studs. So, yeah, it's up to you. But I personally would take Zeke on top of Kamara. So, but yeah, that's how it would be 3, 4. Do you like what do you think he should be going higher than that then, or?
No, well, I actually had him at 5 just because I like Dalvin Cook a little bit better. I feel like Cook's upside is a little bit better than what Kamara can do.
Really?
It's not, yeah, for sure. It's not that Kamara could be bad. It's like when you're looking at these top players, the question you have to ask yourself, especially if you're going to be spending if you're spending first round capital on one of these players, you have to ask yourself, what's the likelihood that this player is going to be the top running back for 2020? And when I look at Alvin Kamara, I think, yeah, he could definitely do it. I don't see why he couldn't. He only had 5 TDs last year, so he's definitely primed for positive regression. And if there's anyone who has a great continuity of offense, it's definitely the Saints. So I love that. And, of course, Randy, you did mention Latavius Murray. What are your thoughts on Latavius Murray? Do you think that he potentially caps Alvin Kamara's upside?
Yes and no. I mean, Latavius is always going to be involved. But the thing is, if one of them's going to get game scripted out, it's going to be Latavius. So Kamara, I think, has a bit safer role in the offense. So I'm never too worried about him. Like, he has that guaranteed workload in the pass game. He's definitely going to do some rushing. So, yeah, Murray's there. I think they just operate as a solid 1-2 punch. And yeah, in the absolute sense of it, he caps Kamara's upside, but he also keeps Kamara fresh. Kamara is never going to get run into the ground in that regard. So that's why he's been such a sturdy option. He's only missed the 3 games. So to me, he's just safe. He has a super high ceiling, but he also has one of the safer floors, and that's what puts him up so high.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you're looking at 10 touches per game for Latavius Murray, and then that's not going to affect Kamara's upside all that much. I really love that take. Let's go ahead and move on to Dalvin Cook. He is our consensus 5th running back. This is probably where we're starting to get some divergence. Of course, I had him at 4. Dev had him at 5, which is right where he's at, and Randy, you had him at 6. So,
no, 5.
Oh, you did? Okay, it's really difficult to read that text where it is. So yeah, so I would say what you're looking at with Dalvin Cook, it's an injury risk versus upside reward. When he was healthy last season, he averaged being the RB2 that entire time with no less than 20 points per game in half point. So the whole offense is built around him, and this is part of the reason why I'm so high on him. So last season, he finished the season third most in goal line rushes, fourth most in evaded tackles, and this is including the games he missed. So that's where he finished compared to every other running back. To think that he did that with all the games that he missed, that's pretty exceptional. There is talk about how the loss of Stephon Diggs might affect things, but Devin, what do you think? Do you think Justin Jefferson offers enough of an answer to kind of diversify that passing offense so that Dalvin Cook can still eat?
No, I think he's going to be eating plenty. I will say though, I mean, aside from the injury concern with him, he had 13 touchdowns last year in
Mm-hmm.
14 games. That's crazy.
That's nuts.
I don't know if he's going to be able to repeat that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. So if those come down, does that impact his fantasy value?
Oh, absolutely it would. Absolutely it would. He does have a lot of catching. So again, we're talking about, say, like when we're talking about Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, he has pretty much a piece of everything. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He can run between the tackles. He's dynamic. He can be a home run hitter. But certainly, if you have any TD regression, you're going to see things being a little bit more difficult. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's. I think that's why I had him at 5 and you had him at 4, just for that. It's
Mm-hmm.
such a small thing,
It's
but that's
like a
it.
little thing, but yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. One of the things that I really like about what Dalvin Cook's going to be doing as well is even though they lost Kevin Stefanski, they still have Gary Kubiak, who's going to be just taking over as the offensive coordinator, and he's been in the league for a long time. And here's an interesting stat. So Kubiak offenses, as far as rushing yards are concerned, every Kubiak offense has averaged within the top 10 every season. So, regardless of what team he's taken over, if he's led that team from the beginning, that team always ends up within the top 10 as far as rushing yards are concerned. So, that's really impressive. Randy, what do you think? I mean, you used to be a Dalvin Cook owner. What are your thoughts for him for this season?
I love Dalvin Cook. I personally think he's the one who has the highest ceiling. The guy who I think is most likely to dethrone McCaffrey as the RB1 overall. It's just I still have him at 5 just due to the built-in risk with him. I don't think I don't think the other three guys at 2 to 4 have the same level of risk. Dalvin has the injury concern. He does have the holdout concern, which isn't really a concern the way everything's structured now. Like I think everyone knows at this point, it's super unlikely that he's actually going to hold out, but still just with the additional risk, that just knocks him down a bit. But I do think he has the highest ceiling. And if he plays all 16 games, I would not be surprised to see him as the RB1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, Alexander Madison, we mentioned him briefly. He is the handcuff, although Mike Boone's still there. He's not going anywhere. Some
Hashtag
people
Mike Boone.
some people want to free Mike Boone. It's true. That's awesome. Okay, next up, we have Derrick Henry. It's funny, Dev, I felt like you made a great point about touchdown regression, and if that affects Dalvin Cook, then, well, if we're talking about Derrick Henry, he had 16 touchdowns on the ground. He had a total of 303 carries for 1,540 yards last year. And he came on towards the back of the year, and that's when they had the quarterback change of Ryan Tannehill. He took over, and they started winning games, and that really helped his volume. And let's face it, Derrick Henry is a volume player with an amazing ceiling, and he's again a running back that could finish as the running back one this year. But the big question is, will his touchdowns regress? Will that offense regress? Derrick Henry doesn't catch passes. That would definitely affect how he's going to end up. Do we see Tennessee being a successful team? Let's start with you, Dev.
I could see Tennessee being fairly successful. I like the makeup of that team. I like that O line, and yeah, Derrick Henry is a beast at pounding the ball. I will say though, I am anticipating some regression in as far as touchdowns. He had 18 overall.
Mm-hmm.
The season prior to that, he had 12. I just think those touchdowns are going to be dropping down.
Yeah. What do you think, Randy?
I agree. I'm not worried about Derrick Henry. He's a guy that I've just tried so hard to be an anti-truther, and I've finally just conceded, waved the white flag. The guy is good. He's a monster, and that's why I have him as high as I do. Because in years past, I would have tried to been like, no, I'm putting him like 12th or something. I just don't like Derrick Henry, but I've come around. He's just a beast of a runner, and it's too bad that he isn't utilized in the passing game, because he would also be in the conversation with all the guys ahead of him as potential overall RB1 if he just caught a few more passes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Those passes again. That's a high value a touch. So like every pass is a more higher value touch than say a carry is. So it would be nice to see him getting more of those. But he does have Darrington Evans in that offense, so he's the super trendy rookie, potentially the handcuff, but he could also serve as a change of pace back as well, which could definitely keep Derrick Henry right where he is with his passing, which is non-existent. Now it's interesting because we go from one player who's had non-existent passing to another player who, in his 1 year, Josh Jacobs, hasn't had much passing. But there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of smoke about the idea of Josh Jacobs actually getting more receptions, and I think that mainly has to do with the fact that when he was in college, he actually had a better, he can catch the ball. He's not like a Derrick Henry. So he's positioned to be a true bell cow back, definitely due to John Gruden. The way that he runs his offense, it's an old school approach to the offense. The whole offense is going to run the ball, and it's going to run through Josh Jacobs. That's really exciting. And one of the things that actually, I was a little bit lower on Josh Jacobs until I took a look and I did some research, and I didn't realize that he was actually playing with injuries after week 13. So like he actually ended the season with some lingering injury issues. Now, Randy, you're one of the people who's high on Josh Jacobs. Why do you think that he's got a great potential this year to be in the top 10?
Well, it's just exactly what you were talking about. He showed so well as a rookie. He's in that offense that's just going to be based around the run. And like you said, he does have that ability. He wasn't utilized because you still have Jalen Richard there, who is an exceptional pass catcher, and he's used in that role. But if anything happens that Josh Jacobs starts seeing some more passing work and he is fully capable of doing it, I could see him just exploding this year. That's why I have him as my sixth RB. I have him the highest of all of us. He's just got that potential there, and I really like him coming into this year. He's a guy that if I'm doing drafts in redraft towards the turn on the first round, if I'm a late first round pick, Josh Jacobs is a guy that I'm trying to scoop up in all spots. I think he has the capability of being something special in that offense.
Yeah, I totally agree. Devin, what do you think about these recent rumors that that John Gruden is upset over the fact that Kyler Murray won the best Rookie of the Year award last year?
Yeah, I mean, well, where there's smoke, there's usually some kind of fire. I agree with everything that Randy just said, as well as what you discovered there, Ryan, when you were double checking the history of Josh Jacobs. And I think that he has potential to just go off. And those receptions, I'm pretty sure, are going to be coming up. He had 20 last year. I
Yes.
mean, unless like it takes a little bit of time to get to know the offense when you're going to be knowing when to block instead of to run a route and that type of thing. I think he was just Gruden was holding him in his back pocket, not showing all of his cards right away. And I think how many more years do they have Gruden there for? He signed a 10-year deal, so
Right.
he's taking his time and he wants to build like a championship team. And Jacobs, he's hoping that Jacobs is going to be a big part of that.
Absolutely. 20 receptions on fewer than 30 targets. That is going to go up. Funny enough, so in the handcuff department, Jalen Richard, you can't really consider him to be a true handcuff there. Again, change of pace back. And also, they got Lynn Bowden, who's out of the University of Kentucky. He's actually converted wide receiver. So what that kind of tells you is they're going all in on Josh Jacobs this particular season. So I am super excited. I after doing some research, I had to bump him up. There's no I just feel like he is, if everything turns out right, like he definitely has a shot at the top running back. I would say that his floor, I would say closer to say top 3 running back is where I could see him finishing if everything goes right. And that would be a fantastic season for him for sure. So next up, we have Miles Sanders. Devan, you are the top guy out of all of us for Miles Sanders. So tell me why you think Miles Sanders at 6. That's pretty high compared to everyone else. Why do you have him pegged there?
Well, I would take him instead of Jacobs, the guy we just talked about. The thing is, I've been pounding the Miles Sanders drum for a long time. What that guy did last year, especially towards the last end of last year, was just remarkable. Look at those receptions. Mwah. 50 receptions, 509 yards. Give me that all day. Only 6 touchdowns. Who do they have to throw to over there? What's going on in Philadelphia? There's nobody else behind them to take over that spot. They're going to mix in some other guys here and there because they do tend to mix up the pace. But overall, they have their bell cow. They want this guy to go. He's a beauty, and he is going to win me championships.
There you go. You can tell that he actually, Devan has him in CanAm. I love it. But honestly, okay, to answer your question, who do they have to throw to? Jalen Richard. And who do they have behind him? Boston Scott. So that's what we're looking at right now. There's also Deshaun Jackson, but again, given the off-field stuff that we won't necessarily discuss, who knows how long Deshaun Jackson is going to be in that offense or even on the team. I'm not sure. I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, is Jalen Richard with Philadelphia now? Because Randy.
No, he meant Jalen Reagor, the rookie.
Jalen Reagor. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
Two Jalen's. Two Jalen's, one mouth. Let's go. What? Are we going to edit this off of YouTube altogether?
Is that your stripper name?
Is that your...
No, that's
I love how we managed to get through half of the episode before we started going completely off the rails.
Okay.
That's awesome. Okay, so the question is Peterson actually going to give Sanders the reins? What do you think there, Randy?
Yeah. Sanders is going to be a stud. I had a difficult time putting him above any of the other guys that I've got up high on the list, but no, he's going to be a stud. He's just an amazing running back. He's super talented. He's in a great situation. I think that Boston Scott is more likely to compliment him than actually steal his touches. I kind of compare it a bit to the Latavius Murray situation. Scott's going to get his touches, but that offense is going to run through Miles Sanders for sure. And the only reason I didn't have him a bit higher is just I think the situation is just a little different there. I think the other guys I have ranked ahead of him just have a higher ceiling, and that's most of the reason that I have them ahead. But no, he's going to be great, and not much more to say about that. He's an amazing back.
Yep. No, he's definitely he has a great potential for sure. Let's go ahead and move on to the next running back that we have, who's Joe Mixon. The Bengals, of course, last year he actually had an increase in offensive production. He was totaling 18 plus touches on 10 different occasions, which is pretty amazing. The question is, can he step forward even more than that? Because he's been an RB2 or better in just 57% of his games so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects things. Also, he's had a couple of contract squabbles with the Bengals. Let's see. Who is the high guy out of both of you? Oh, okay, Dev, seventh overall. So tell me about Joe Mixon. Why do you think he's going to be better than he was last year, even though he had 10 games of 18 plus touches?
Well, seeing as how I have both of these guys in CanAm, I will try to not be biased about these guys, but it's really hard. It's really hard, man. So I have exactly like that. So Miles Sanders 6, and yes, you're right. I do have Sanders, and then Joe Mixon 7. So Joe Mixon, I think that it's been only a matter of time before this guy can go off to have the potential to be a top 3 running back in the league. He plays on the Bengals, which are known to have a terrible O line, and he's still putting up really good production for all things considered. He's coming in on his 4th year now, and we got Joe. I don't mean we. They got Joe Burrow there, and I think that it's only going to improve. They can only get better from where they were last year, and I just think that it might be the year now that he finally just breaks into that role that I think he would be doing. Just look at his stats; it's just incredible. 1,137 yards behind that crappy O line, 35 receptions, and then 8 total touchdowns behind the Bengals. So that's just yeah. I just think it's only a matter of time for him to just blow up. One thing, keep in mind that when he was in his rookie year, he fell in the draft because of his off-field antics. He's seemed to have there hasn't been anything that's come up of late. And other than that, if it wasn't for the off-field antics, he would have been drafted a lot higher in the draft. The guy's really talented. Okay,
Absolutely.
I'm done.
And 35 receptions for
See you guys.
280. Wait, no, Devin, don't go. We're still doing the show. Man. Okay, so 35 receptions for 287 yards, and you did mention off-field antics. I think that this whole issue with his contract is kind of an off-field antic. Randy, what do you think? Does Joe Burrow improve this offense enough so that Joe Mixon can truly feast this year?
I think so. Joe Burrow is definitely going to be a step up over Andy Dalton. Also, I think that the offensive line is going to be better. They've got the one player, I can't remember his name right now, but he was injured last year. He was supposed to be their top offensive lineman, and he's coming back. So that's going to improve. He's realistically a top 5 talent in the NFL at running back. If he was on a different team other than the Bengals, he would be up there. McCaffrey, Barkley, Elliott, Kamara, for sure. He would be in that conversation. It's the Bengals. So that's
It's the Bengals.
That's why there's the element of risk there, because they could very easily flop. Like, they've got a rookie quarterback coming in who we don't know what he's going to do yet. We're definitely excited about what he could possibly do, but we don't know. Bless you, Liv.
Thank you. Sorry.
And that's where I have my ranking bet baked into the risk with him.
Mm-hmm.
Is that we're just unsure, but the talent is there for sure. I really hope good things for him, because I love him as a player. He's fun to watch.
Absolutely. And one running back to look at as far as handcuffs are concerned, Giovanni, don't call me Gio Bernard, is definitely a talented running back in his own right. And if Joe Mixon goes down, you can almost slot him in for whatever Joe Mixon is going to do. He'll be almost like a 95% Joe Mixon light, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But Giovanni Bernard, super talented. So it's amazing that the Bengals, with that talented backfield, have just been pretty mediocre for a long time.
O-line
Unfortunate.
matters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. But at some point, you need to address it. And I wish Seattle would as well. We'll talk about that in another episode. Let's move right along. We've got Nick Chubb next up on our list. Actually, it's kind of a tie. Nick Chubb actually ends up edging out Todd Gurley by hundredths of percentage points. So we'll talk about Nick Chubb. Of course, through 10 games last year before Kareem Hunt came in, he was the number 4 overall running back in half PPR formats. So that was pretty awesome. And then, of course, Kareem Hunt joined in, and Chubb fell down to the number 18 running back. So this is a clear timeshare with two very talented running backs for sure. I personally find it difficult to rate him high, and out of everybody, I'm kind of in the middle here. Randy, you're the high guy. So why Nick Chubb at 11, even though he has the specter of Kareem Hunt? I'm not saying that Kareem Hunt is a ghost, but he's got Kareem Hunt there. Why can you trust Nick Chubb at 11?
Well, because Chubb is, frankly, the most talented guy on that team. No disrespect to Kareem Hunt, but Chubb is an amazing talent, and he's going to get his work no matter what. And I think a lot also of what happened with him in the second half Kareem Hunt's definitely going to eat into that workload. That's why I don't have Chubb higher than I currently do. But that offense as a whole is very likely to take a step forward. I don't think they're going to be amazing, but I expect Baker to have a bit of a bounce back, and just overall it's going to be a better offense, which means he's going to just be better than he was towards the end of last season. So I had a really tough time ranking him, but I like to believe in talent. That's maybe it's a weakness of mine, but when talent is in the equation, I tend to side with that. So that's why I have Chubb higher than the rest of you guys, but I think that's pretty reasonable for him. He's just kind of right on that edge of he has that high ceiling that you saw without Hunt there. So he's a pretty safe guy to draft. I think his floor and ceiling are relatively stable. Like, he doesn't have the ultra high ceiling, but he has a pretty safe floor because he's going to have that role in that offense. So I like him where he is.
Right, and he ends up being a really high-end RB2, if you will. So he's currently ranked as our consensus 10. You'd almost want to get him as your second RB, because as a second RB, that would be some really consistent production. And we were talking earlier about Dalvin Cook and the fact that Kevin Stefanski went away from the Vikings. He went away from the Vikings so he could be the head coach of the Browns. So you were talking about that offense improving. Devan, what do you think? Do you think that if the Browns are running the Vikings scheme, do they have an opportunity to really bounce back?
Yeah, it's so hard to say with the Browns, though. Yeah, every year we say, "Oh, it's their year," and then it just doesn't happen. But I will say that I actually think the most talented running back on that team is Kareem Hunt. I wouldn't draft Kareem Hunt over Chubb because you just can't do that for value. You get better value if I think that. But so I tend to think that Kareem Hunt is more like Dalvin Cook as far as stylistically and how they play. So I have this little inkling that Kareem Hunt may end up taking over there, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's
pretty spicy. That's very spicy, yeah. And no doubt, like, if you're going to be able to get Kareem Hunt where he's currently going, which is, if I quickly take a look here, Kareem Hunt currently going off the board at... so he's RB 28, 66 overall is what his ADP is, average draft position. So that's quite the value, especially you don't even necessarily need to be banking on Kareem Hunt taking over and still getting good value drafting him at the 66 pick overall. So I can see what you're talking about, Dev.
And it's like we know what he's capable of when he was on KC and he was the lead back there. So
That's for sure. And we'll be talking about Kansas City very soon. Oh, very soon. But first up, we've got Todd Gurley. I like how everybody laughs because they know what's coming when I'm talking about CEH. Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley. Coming when I talk about CEH.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I also know what's coming when I talk about CEH.
It's totally fine. So Todd Gurley, we're pretty high on him compared to the rest of the industry. Todd Gurley is currently our 11th consensus overall running back in the industry. He's going RB15, so that's quite the jump, 4-spot jump for sure. When you're looking at what Todd Gurley can do, we've seen him lead the league before, and just recently he's been dealing with some pretty unfortunate injury issues. So he's someone who still finished with 98 touches over the final 5 games that they have when he was playing for the Rams. And during that time, he did show that he was able to handle a big workload if they'll give it to him. So now he's going to the Falcons, and that's definitely going to be one of the better offensive lines in football. You also have 2 extremely talented wide receivers in that offense in Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. So it's a phenomenal offense for him to be going to, and he's going to be doing a lot of things that Devonta Freeman used to do for that team. Devin, why do you think we're generally higher than the industry as far as Todd Gurley is concerned?
I think it's for all those reasons you're kind of alluding to there. I remember when we first started this, I was low on Gurley, and there is the concerns baked in there with a new team, new offense, has to learn a new entire system. So there is that concern there if you're going to take any negatives away from Gurley. But having said that, everything that you guys always talk about with Atlanta is the very reason why he should be ranked where he is for us. That O-line is incredible. That offense is constantly just putting up points because they can't really lean on their defense. And yeah, it just makes too much sense there. There's just too much possibilities of touchdowns and points there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Randy, you're the high guy who's on the show today for Todd Gurley. Why do you have him ranked as you do?
Well, it's Gurley. He's just so good. He is only 1 full year removed from just absolutely steamrolling the league and winning a lot of championships from his first overall perch in 2018, where he just lived up to that in every sense of the word. And he's moving from a team that was rightly coming off his injury, reducing his workload and not giving him as many touches, and he's still and also one of the lower ranked O lines in the league, and he still came in and finished the season as the RB12, and now I think he's currently ranked as the RB15 off the board.
That's great.
Going to a top end offensive line with one of the better quarterbacks in the league and 1-2 wide receiver punch that is basically second to none. And he's going lower. I get the new team concern, but man, that guy is just so talented that as long as he starts all year, he, for me, is almost guaranteed a top 6 RB finish. And I'm willing to take that risk on that talent. So that's why I've got him ranked so high.
Yeah, that's fairly high. I would say, especially if he's going off the board at RB15, this is one of the things that I want our viewers to know. Just because we have a player ranked at a certain spot doesn't mean you draft them at that ranking. The goal is in any fantasy football draft to get as much value as you can. So, hey, if you're the high guy on Todd Gurley like Randy is, like the majority of us are actually, you would want to kind of draft him in a spot where you would maximize the amount of value you could get out of that player. So you don't have to draft him as the 6th overall running back because you think he's going to finish there. Draft him as the 14th running back off the board. That's where I have him, and enjoy the sort of value of the finish that he's going to have.
Yeah, and that's 100% correct. So we have our rankings list, and this is just our expectation on the players, and not necessarily our draft strategy. In my longest standing league, we already know our draft order, and I'm drafting 3rd overall in a 12-teamer, and I know that unless something strange happens at the 3rd round, pick 3, Todd Gurley all day, and I'm not even hesitating on that. I'm just smashing draft if he makes it to me there, and I fully expect him to. And value-wise, like you were saying, back end of the 2nd is where I have him ranked for sure, but I'm not going to try to take him there. I'm going to try to wait it out and get him at the start of the 3rd.
Yeah, if you can grab him as your 2nd RB, or if you go RB heavy and you go 3 running backs, you are laughing for sure. Todd Gurley is one of the players that we're definitely highest on in this channel. So next up, we've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And if you look at the numbers, my love of CEH wasn't able to push up his ranking, unfortunately. But when you take a look, he is a true every down back. And recently with Damien Williams, his opt-out happening, he's in line for an amazing workload in a top 3 scoring offense. He was drafted in the 1st round, so of course the Chiefs have top capital as far as CEH is concerned. So he's going to get work, and that's really what I believe. Apparently, no one else in our channel believes that, though. Who wants to... Oh, Randy I think he got a drink so he can get ready to argue. Devin, why do you think that CEH... you currently have him ranked as 11, which is cool. Why do you have him ranked as you do?
I just can't take a rookie with this new COVID uncertain season in the top 10, regardless of the scenario. I just would rather take more safer proven guys ahead of him. And I understand that the opportunity is definitely going to be there for him. And I know that Andy Reid took him with the 1st, and, it could happen for him. Absolutely. But I'm just not willing to take that risk this year, this early.
And one of the neat things about this particular thing, we have, you might see multiple 16s along this list. That's just because they went unranked as far as we were concerned when we were making our rankings. So, Randy, you didn't rank Clyde even within the top 15. Why is that?
Nope. I am just a non-believer. I've read a lot on the guy, and don't get me wrong, I fully understand the hype, the Chiefs offense, high draft capital, but a few things have me scared about the guy. One is what Devan already touched on. We have this unique situation, the COVID season, where there's a shortened preseason, everything's shortened. They're not getting as much work in, and so there's just an additional risk baked into rookies. But the other thing that I've read a lot of that scares me more is he has pretty poor workout metrics. He has the concept of RAS is something that I just learned this year because I'm researching a lot more and trying to get more involved in fantasy football. So a raw athletic score. He has a very low one compared to other high value prospects, and I just feel like a few things combined that the hype is super out of control with him, and he's just someone that scares me so much. I just won't get any shares of him because I won't be willing to take him above proven quantities who that they're fantastic running backs. So for me, he's a hard fade for me, and you know what? I'm prepared to. eat all the crap I'm going to take if he goes out there and wins leagues. But I'm pretty comfortable in my decision of keeping him off my rankings right this second.
That's fair. And so we've heard a couple of reasons why Clyde is someone who people are worried about drafting. And honestly, I feel like that is a very commonplace view as far as the general fantasy football populace. The industry is a little bit different because they're willing to bet on the idea that, we're dealing with someone who is used to high passing volume. It's actually his specialty. He's also exceptionally shifty in the backfield. He has amazing vision. I get what you're saying about the workout metrics, and he ran a 4.640, so that's not the fastest running back in the world, but he has the intangibles. He has such a great mind for the game that I feel like that changes everything. And when you're looking at an Andy Reid offense, which is generally a lot of people are discussing the fact that, hey, you saw what Andy Reid did with Kareem Hunt. But let's just take a look at Andy Reid on a whole. Now, out of 21 seasons, 12 of those seasons, he had an RB1 as a head coach. Okay? So, 12 seasons, RB1, he was coaching. Brian Westbrook, of course, everyone is aware of just what an amazing talent he was for the Eagles. He had 5 straight years as the RB1, and that was from 2004 to 2008. Now, 5 straight years, including his rookie year. Andy Reid said that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a better back than Brian Westbrook. And he, for the first time in his 21 seasons as a head coach, made sure to get his running back, the one that he wanted, and the one that his quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, wanted, in the first round. There's never been a time when Andy Reid has drafted a running back that high. So when you consider just the sort of draft capital and just the sort of maneuver that they took to do that, not only that, but also thinking about rookie running backs, they can get work early. Even with the COVID thing, it's going to be difficult. We're talking about, again, what is potentially going to be a top 3 offense, scoring offense in the league this year, potentially top 1. Clyde has the opportunity and the ability and the talent to be the number 1 running back. That's his ceiling, guys. So I totally get why people are not high on him, but I think people are going to be missing out.
Yeah, I will be one.
Yeah, I probably will be as well. But I mean, like, if you look at Fantasy Pros consensus ranking, he's going 8 in the rankings in half point PPR, and then I had him 11. So it's not that far off. I'm just saying I'd rather take a little bit of a safe for sure thing that some of these other names we're talking about, like the Joe Mixons and that I just said. I know what he can do, and I think he can be a top 3 running back. So, anyways, we can do this dance all night. But I think it's like, I get it. I get it, man. I get why you're taking him that high.
Yeah. I have to admit, like, originally I wasn't necessarily going to have him at 7th overall, 7th running back overall. That wasn't necessarily what I was going to do. But the more that I read into it, the more that I look at it, I've watched the tape. The tape's impressive as it is. He's one of the most divisive running backs coming into the league, for sure, because there's some people who just love themselves some CEH, and some people are like, what do you see in this guy? So I can see both sides, but I'm definitely going to be seeing a lot of shares of CEH because I'm willing to draft him. So, enough CEH talk. We'll wait till the next episode. Next episode's going to be top 15 wide receivers. Somehow I'm going to find an excuse to talk about Clyde. Next up, we have... I'm sorry?
I said, yeah, that's fair.
Yep, no, that's going to happen. Next up, we have Aaron Jones of someone's Green Bay Packers, not any of ours. Aaron Jones, super talented. Again, a running back that could end as the RB1 for 2020. easily could from a talent-based perspective. But with Aaron Jones, he's mercurial. It's feast or famine with him. So he spent 5 weeks out of the top 20. Again, when we're talking about touchdowns, he's a home run hitter, and he had 19 touchdowns last year. And that's going to be hard to replicate given the team composition. So, Randy, handcuffs were brought in. A.J. Dillon, who has many Derrick Henry comps, and then Jamal Williams hasn't gone anywhere, and Matt LaFleur is declaring this a three-headed backfield. What do you think about Aaron Jones for this year, though?
You know what? I think this is another situation. I think talent's going to win out. Aaron Jones, well, we can't say much about A.J. Dillon yet because we haven't seen him take a snap in the NFL, but Aaron Jones is definitely the more talented guy to Jamal Williams. And I think even with the other one or two guys involved, that Aaron Jones just has the possibility to eat once again. He's got a nose for the end zone. He can break off a big play whenever. And I just noticed right now that I'm smack at our panel average right here at 12, and that's where I like him. He's got that potential there. He has the baked-in concerns with the timeshare, the offense potentially taking a step back, but there's also, there's the potential that we get mad Aaron Rodgers this year, who's just going to come in and set the league on fire. So I like Aaron Jones where he's at. He's a guy that I'm not necessarily targeting, but I would be very happy to walk away with him in the right spot.
Right, and so when you're looking at Aaron Jones, he had 13 carries inside the 5, and he converted them for 8 touchdowns. So, Devan, when you're taking a look at A.J. Dillon, who is potentially someone who, I'm not going to call him Derrick Henry, but he has a very similar build, very similar athletics score, if you will, he could take away some of those touchdowns, and suddenly you're not looking at 19 touchdowns anymore. Does that affect how you're going to be drafting him at all?
Absolutely. 19 touchdowns, I don't think he's going to be able to repeat that. So that's going to be coming down for me. Having said that, for the same reason why I think A-Rod is being overlooked in quarterback consensus, I think he should be being taken a lot higher. That's the part of the main reason why I think that Aaron Jones should be taken into consideration when you're drafting.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts when you think of just how low Aaron Rodgers is. And again, we're talking about the talents of running back. Well, we're talking about one of the most talented quarterbacks of his generation. And if it wasn't for someone by the name of Tom Terrific Brady, I think the argument could be made that Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback of his generation. So we're talking about a very talented quarterback. Can he get beyond the Matt LaFleur offense, which is unfortunately kind of brought his value down? And that's a good question. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. We're talking about Aaron Jones. But I think that he's ranked pretty much right where he should be. It's a good spot for him. I wouldn't mind having him as my RB2. Great upside. If you're really worried about A.J. Dillon, draft him too.
Like, even if it goes down to like 12 touchdowns, that's going to drop him down quite a bit. But I think he's still very, very valuable.
I mean, for where he's ranked and the potential upside of him hitting 15 touchdowns, even 14 touchdowns, that's still pretty decent for where he's at right now. Anything else on Aaron Jones, Randy or Dev?
Oh, I was just going to chime in on your comment about Tom Brady, and it's not Tom Brady, it's Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. It's amazing how much a coach can also cap a quarterback's ability to be great. And it's almost like Aaron Rodgers succeeded in spite of Mike McCarthy. So, yeah. But that's not to say that Mike McCarthy isn't going to be doing good things for the Cowboys. I think he's going to be great in Dallas. I think a first season, a reinvigorated Mike McCarthy, he took a year off. I think that offense is going to be good. So I'm just not willing to believe that that's going to be bad. Too much talent.
I agree with you. That Dallas offense is going to be fantastic, and It's like Mike McCarthy he did not work in Green Bay, and I personally feel like he held that team back a bit from what they could have been if they had a better coach there. Mm-hmm. I think we're talking about Aaron Rodgers the same way we're talking about Tom Brady, but that's not to say that Mike McCarthy doesn't have his strengths. Like he's obviously a football mind. There's a reason that he got another crack at it. So I'm hoping to see him rebound. I'm not a Packers fan or a Packers hater or anything like that. It's just I just want to see. I like redemption stories like that. I think if he gets another crack, I think if he does well with it, I'd be happy to see that for sure.
Totally agreed. Everyone likes a redemption story for sure. Let's move along. We've got Kenyon Drake next up on our rankings. So we've got two more to do on the show, Kenyon Drake and then James Conner. Kenyon Drake, of course, he's going to be with the Arizona offense. This will be the first time he has a full season with Arizona. And currently, DraftNix have him as RB11, so it seems like our show is kind of low on him, RB14 overall. And he did so well under Cliff Kingsbury after he got traded over. He started, I think it was week 9, and so he was like the RB4 for the remainder of the season while he was getting the start over in Arizona. So what is the potential problem here? I see that Randy doesn't even have Kenyon Drake ranked. Neither does Devan. Neither of you ranked him in the top 15. What's up with that? Let's start with Randy.
I believe in the Arizona offense. I don't necessarily believe in Kenyon Drake. You mentioned that he was the RB4 for that final stretch with Arizona at the end of the year. Well, the bulk of that work came in 3 monster games, and then he was almost invisible for the rest of them. So I'm just not ready to buy into Kenyon Drake as a full season. This is the guy. I'm just not ready to do that. I think that Arizona is going to have a great offense and will have a great running game. I'm just not convinced that Kenyon Drake is necessarily going to be the guy. So that's where my lack of ranking on him is baked in. I just have my reservations. To me, it sneakily feels like last year's Damian Williams all over again, where he has a great end to the season and gets a super high draft ranking going into the next year based on that small sample. And I'm not convinced. I need to see more before I'm going to put him that high up in my rankings.
Okay. So Dev, we've got last season, if you count all 14 games that Kenyon Drake played, he had 170 attempts for 817 rushing yards. He averaged 4.8 yards per attempt. He had 50 receptions for 345 yards and 8 total touchdowns. So I guess my question to you is, do you just hate Kenyon Drake because A10 had him in the finals last year and he beat you for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns?
No, I don't even honestly remember who did it. But I just look at his history, Kenyon Drake, and he is constantly a guy that will do just what Randy said. A couple games of explosiveness, never consistently proving it. He's a guy that keeps on, what if, all the time. He's never done it. I just don't buy it. And you know what, I'll take Fournette over him. I'll take James Conner over him. I'll take Le'Veon Bell over him. And Jonathan Taylor. And those are running backs that haven't even been mentioned.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And they just barely missed out on our top 15. And all joking aside, I really think that when I look at Kenyon Drake, I'm a believer. The fact that the Cardinals would go ahead and transition tag him says a lot about what they believe in the player. not only that, but when he was in Miami, I felt like he was held back by poor teams. And we were talking about Mike McCarthy and how everyone likes a redemption story. You know, one coach that shouldn't have a redemption story? That'd be Adam Gase. And I feel like we can put the blame squarely on Adam Gase for a lot of what Kenyon Drake's mediocrity was in Miami. Now that he's in the Cliff Kingsbury offense, he has a chance to actually show what he can do as an athlete. So for me personally, you can see that I'm one of the high guys. A10 as well is one of the high guys on Kenyon Drake this season. But we get it. I get it. I personally get it. I'm not going to talk for A10, but I get it. I get what you guys are saying. There is some question, but I feel like Kenyon Drake kind of proved it at the end of last year when he was with a decent offense. So that's just where I'm at with that. Cool. Last but not least, we've got James Conner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, one thing that maybe people don't necessarily remember, he's only a year removed from being the RB6. And last year, he dealt with not having Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback. So let's go ahead and see where everyone has James Conner ranked. He was unranked for most people, and I had him at 15th. Okay, so James Conner, you're saying that you would trust James Conner over Kenyon Drake, their Dev. What is it about James Conner that you like more than Kenyon Drake?
Well, what you just mentioned there is he's going to have Ben, and he has shown it for an entire season. Well, 13 games of a season in 2018 of putting up. Was it RB6? You said
RB6, yes, overall.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So he's done it for an entire system. Not a little stretch of a season where, I did it for a little bit one time. No, he did an entire season, and he's still the main running back in Pittsburgh, and now, Big Ben's there. So, give me James Conner.
No, that's fair. And you'd have to think, Randy, that without the injuries that James Conner has dealt with, he'd probably be a top 10 fantasy back. Is that your only detractor for him?
Pretty much. Just, the injuries. He's dealt with injuries in his career. And actually, it's like just talking a bit more about it, and I honestly forgot he was that high in 2018. I remember him having a great year, but I forgot that he was the RB6. And thinking now internally, I might even move him up a couple notches because, like you said, he dealt with the injuries. He dealt with life without Big Ben there. And the Steelers have come out and said that they plan on riding him as their workhorse. Mm-hmm. So, like, what's not to like there, especially if you're getting a guy who has top 6 upside, and you're getting him as the what is he currently? He's pretty low.
Yeah, no, he is the RB18. So we are as a channel, we are 3 spots ahead of where he's going off of the draft board. So RB18. 39 as far as ADP is concerned. So
so I think he's got good value, and of course the baked in risk he has with him. But no, I like him a lot. I think that he's talented. It's just it's the injury risk that's keeping him down. So we'll have to see what happens, but I could definitely see myself ending up with a lot of shares of James Conner the way things are looking right now.
Absolutely. Well, that does it for our top 15 consensus rankings for running back for the 2020 season. We'll go ahead and do what we always do. Let's start with Devan. Devan, what did you learn today?
What did I learn? I think I learned, actually, even though I was defending James Conner, I didn't know that his season was that good in 2018. 6 overall. I did honestly just learn that, even though I was defending him. So, that's what I learned.
Cool. Randy, let's go to you. What did you learn today?
Yeah. Well, even though I'm not prepared to move the needle too much on him, I did learn a lot more about the positive side of CEH coming into this year. I still have the doubts there, and I think they still are going to outweigh the good, but a lot of what you said makes a lot of sense. So I've always admitted that I get the love for him, but hearing you talk about it, and it was pretty eye opening. So I really like that.
I think baby calls for some of us. What did I learn today? Well, I learned that both Devan and Randy want to have players that have proven it. And I think that that's actually a really good thing to have. So definitely when you're going into your drafts, it's nice to have that concept of, hey, this is a player who's proven they can do it. They've done it before. They have the talent, and they've shown that they can do it on the big stage. That should probably there should be some weight put to that. So I'm actually gonna try to keep that in mind a little bit. Unless it's about CEH, then I'm just gonna ignore everything else. Well, Dev, do you have anything to plug?
If you want to check out my music at Wild Dove Live on Instagram and Facebook, and all your Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your music, you can check it out.
Cool. And Randy, any plugs for you?
The beer I'm drinking, pretty fantastic. It's a go-to standard for me. It's by Salt Spring Brewing. It's an Earl Grey IPA.
Ooh, yeah, I love that.
Tasty little devil. So if I'm gonna plug anything, may as well plug that.
That sounds great. And I'm going to plug the show. Why don't you go ahead and join our drive for 500? We're trying to get 500 subscribers. And as soon as we do, we're going to be having a draft. A draft? We're going to have a raffle for a signed Amari Cooper jersey. No, Devin, you cannot get the signed Amari Cooper jersey because you're on the podcast. That wouldn't be fair. No, Randy.
But what if our names are drawn?
What if your names were what?
Are drawn.
They won't be, because they'll be removed. We're going to do Wheel of Names. Okay, spoiler alert, we're doing Wheel of Names, for sure. So yeah, as soon as we get to 500 subscribers, we're going to go ahead and raffle off a signed Amari Cooper jersey that was purchased through Pristine Auction. So it is legit. It's got its official papers and everything. So yeah, subscribe. Give us a like. We're cool guys. We like fantasy football. We want you to do well with your season of fantasy football. So for Randy and Devin, I'm Ryan. Good luck and have fun this year with all your fantasy football.
Yeah, out of here.